Terry Fossum, thank you so much for coming on the Inner Edison Podcast. I appreciate you being here today.
Ed, I'm excited to be here, man. I really am. I love what you're doing to help people get over their obstacles and their excuses and the pain that they've had. Turn that around and use it. I love it.
Yeah, your greatest compliments come from your greatest defeats. You just have to realize that. And sometimes when we're in it, we wallow in it, and then finally we figure, like I'm in the mortgage industry, so once they cut that pipeline down, what's his name, then we got inflation, destroyed our industry, and I was very upset for a while because it was something that didn't need to happen. We could have just went going forward, and we'd still be good. But because what happened, our rates went up 5%, and it destroyed the industry. And now you have existing home sales that aren't going anywhere. So I was upset. And then I was listening to somebody, and they were saying that a friend of theirs would always go, did this happen to me or did this happen for me? And then it started making me really look at what I was upset about and realize that, hey, you've been saying forever you've wanted to do all this other stuff and have other forms of income, that you don't have to worry about. So you better getting on that.
There you go.
Yeah. So, and that's so I have no problem. I was a private person before I got on radio in 2018. I do a talk radio show on iHeartMedia once a week, and it's about real estate and finance. And ever since then, now everybody knows everything about me.
Yeah. Funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah. I was the best kept secret. Now everybody knows everything. Everything that ever happened to me, everybody knows.
Yeah.
And then it came out in my book. I wrote a book that came out 2 Februarys ago and talked about, it's called Financial Freedom, Building Personal Wealth Through Home Ownership. And it talked about what I went through and lived through the first downturn in 2006, how it affected me and how I came out on the other side with fixing my credit and everything else. And so now I explain to people, we don't judge. We've been through it. If it happened to you, it's happened to us. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's a fact. That is an absolute fact. And then some, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. And now if I look back at my career over 25 years, there probably was 10 good years in this industry.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I look back at everything that's happened to me and it's, been somewhat substantial. And yet that is what is given me the credibility and the background to help people through their challenges. I've been through it. We've had the tears, we've had the blood, we've had the bruises, still do. So therefore we can help other people going through what they're going through because we get it. We understand. We've been there. We got through it. Therefore we can help others do the same.
And there's no judgment.
Yeah, no. Why would there be?
I know, but that's what people think. It's like, no, this is a judgment-free zone, man. Yeah. I don't care what happened to you. Let's just get you through it and move to the other side.
That's it. Let it strengthen you. Let it build you up.
All right. I know we want to talk about your book and the principles in that, but how did you get to where you are today?
By failing. By failing and failing and failing and failing. He who fails fastest wins, but that sounds pretty, like just off the hand, but it's true. It's the God's honest, and I've been very blessed to succeed in the military, in the business world, and the philanthropy, a lot of different survival reality show, all that. Why? Well, because I wasn't afraid of failing. And I just used those failures, of course, learn from them. We all know that, but it doesn't feel like that when you're going through them. But every single person who has ever succeeded at anything has failed a bunch. So for everybody listening in out there, if you're failing right now, I don't want you to go, wow, crap, man, maybe I'm not supposed to do this. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe this isn't what God wants. Maybe all these other things that go into our head. But rather, I want you to go, every single person who's ever succeeded at anything has failed and failed. Guess what? I'm failing. I'm on the road to success, baby. That's where I'm at. We say that the opposite of success is failure. Bull. The opposite of success is not failing, because you're never going to succeed unless you failed a whole bunch. So get out there and fail some more. It'll work out.
Yeah. That's why some people say you're either winning or you're learning.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Did I hear
you say, time, but you are.
Did I hear you say you're in the military?
Yeah.
What service?
I was the Air Force. I was the executive officer for an entire group of nuclear B-52 bombers during the Cold War.
Wow. Thank you for your service. I was in the Navy, corpsman.
Oh, right on, man.
Stationed with the Marines at Camp Pendleton.
Right
you need to put veteran on your tags on Podmatch, because there's a lot of veteran-centric shows only that deal with veterans. I do another podcast called Helping the Brave, where I talk to veterans. Once we take the uniform off, we go through their transition and where they're at and what they've, that kind of stuff. And business. I found that 50% of vets are business owners.
I'll be darned. Makes sense. We're taught leadership. We're taught hard work, no excuses, get her done.
Yeah. And that's only 1% of the population is a veteran business owner, but that's huge.
Yeah. I love it.
So I would like to have you on my other one. I'll send you that link after this show.
You got it.
Yeah. So because I don't think people realize that veterans, we learn SOPs, right?
Mm-hmm.
We learn how to put that in our business. We learn attention to detail. That's why they make you make your damn bed so much. There's so many other things we learn that most people who go through college don't learn any of that the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, no excuses. When I was growing up, so to speak, in the Corps of Cadets at A&M, it was yes, sir, no, sir, or no excuse, sir. That's the only 3 answers you got. That's it. So yeah, we don't make excuses. We get the job done. You tell us to charge that hill, whatever that hill is, we'll charge it.
That was the old military. The new military is not the same.
Well, I'm not here to talk about
my son's in the Army right now. He's he's an airborne medic. Now he's in Washington at another base, and he's in the cavalry division in the Army, which now they're closing that division now because they don't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, well, they don't even have horses anymore. So why even call it a cavalry? It's blended together. But what I'm getting at is it's a totally different world. It's that whole generational things where the Cold War, you had the greatest generation, then the next generation, the next, and then it cycles again. And that's where I think we are now with our 22-year-olds and younger. We're into they're not as good as the greatest generation, of course, but they're close to what they're going in this world. That's what they're going through. And I see a change already, unlike what we just went through with the millennial. And no pick if you're a millennial. I'm just saying that's just just how that generational thing works.
Well, I'm a scout leader, and I'm very proud to be a scout leader. And I can tell you, there's a lot of amazing kids out there. And I've been a scout leader for several years now. So a lot of those kids are those millennials, and we can do a blanket judgment, but we can't make a blanket judgment, I don't think, on any generation. There's a lot of good people in all generations.
I wasn't saying they're bad. I'm just saying the greatest generation was like, we do everything, we get it done, because they went through that war. And there's a whole mentality. I came across this one of my podcasts. The guy was explaining it to me, and I can see it. There's nothing wrong with the millennial generation. I'm just saying because there's different levels of them. There's just what they went through is not what everybody else went. But there is a lot of people in that younger that is totally different people. And because I got kids in every level of that. So I could and everybody's different. It's your background. It's what you went through in the whole 9 yards. Because I remember growing up and my grandfather telling me that it was, I can't believe what's going on in the world. It's the same stuff I talk about today. It's like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's get back to the business stuff instead of everything else. All right. So you did all this stuff. You failed so much. A lot of people go, sure, when you're trying to coach people and help people, they really want to make sure you've been through something. So what was one of your greatest failures that you had?
Oh man, line them up. But I think it's important for people to know, my background, because they hear the accolades and, number 1 best-selling author on Wall Street Journal, number 2 TED Talk in the world. He won a survival reality show, and on and on and on and on. Those are things I did. That's not who I am. And who I am depends on perspective. What everybody else thinks I am, or who I know that I am. I was raised in literally the poorest city in the entire United States of America. You've heard of it, McAllen, Texas, right on the border. All the border crossings are happening. The cartels coming across. And don't get me wrong, I love my hometown, but it could be a little rough growing up there sometimes with the gangs and the drugs. I was on the wrong end of an assault rifle in junior high, in my own back alley. When I was in high school, my dad, was killed. Before he died, one of the neighbors came up to him and said, I just want to make sure you understand something. Your 3 boys, your 3 sons, not a single one of them's ever going to grow up to be anything. I don't know why he said that. He probably had pretty good reason, but that was my expectation growing up. And I got to tell you, Ed, I tried, man. I filled my head full of all the positive motivation I could, all the inspiration, all the goal setting, everything I could. And I got into business. And I tried, man, and I failed. And I tried, and I failed. And I failed, and I failed. And I got to the point where I just couldn't fail anymore. I gave up. And I walked into the bathroom and I looked at myself in the mirror. I guess he's right. You're never going to grow up to be anything. Wait a minute. No. See, there was a turning point, and that's what this is all about, this failure into success. Right there, something happened. Something clicked inside of me. I got pissed off, to tell you the truth. I got angry. I'm not going to let that son of a gun be right. For the memory of my dad, if nothing else, I'm not going to let him be right. And something happened. I got up and I brushed myself off. I didn't let this conquer me. I conquered it. I used it as a weapon, like a tool. I used it. And I started facing the same challenges again as I did before, the same setbacks and no's and disappointments, but now from a different standpoint. Not just going towards some positive visualization. I never believed would happen to a kid like me. But now I had something to go away from. Not just a why I want to do something, why I have to do something. And at that moment, the ox cart technique was born. Didn't know what I was going to call it yet. Didn't really know what was happening. All I know is it changed my life completely.
What age were you?
That would have been in my latter 20s.
Okay. Well, I mean, we all go through a lot of stuff in our 20s, and I'm not discounting what you just went through because that's a lot. What is the ox? What you just said? What is that technique?
The ox cart technique. All right, here's the deal. Where do you start? Prospect theory. Now, I'm hearing a lot of pseudoscience being used with motivation out there right now. And a lot of it's crap, to tell you the truth. I found out there's a reason why 92% of the people who set a goal fail. 92% fail. There's a reason why. Most of what we're being taught about goal setting and self-improvement is incomplete or completely wrong. For example, a lot of us have heard about the Harvard study, Harvard goal setting study. It's been in #1 best-selling books. It's still taught on stages around the globe. One of the things is every single person who wrote down their goals in this study at Harvard reached them, every single person, which would be amazing if it was true, but it's not. Harvard study never happened. Somebody made it up. Harvard's confirmed it never happened. So the positive visualization thing, important, dream boards, all that kind of, it's important. It really is. But prospect theory, which won the Nobel Prize when applied to economics, taught us that we'll do more to avoid pain than to go toward pleasure. And say it again. We'll do more to avoid pain than to go toward pleasure. I can run pretty fast chasing a bear to get a good picture. I've done it. I can run a lot faster when the bear is chasing me. I've done it. So here's the problem. We associate pain with getting out of our comfort zone. So no matter how much positive visualization, pleasure we do, it's not going to work. So the ox cart technique is not just the carrot, the nice thing. It's also the stick. It's the thing that's going to kick you in the butt that you develop yourself. Because emotion, not fact, is the driver of all action. Emotion, not fact. So you have to create those emotions within you that are going to drive you. Give you an example. Not just business goals, marital goals, right? 50% fail. Health goals, 74% of diets fail, right? I have in my book even, the ox cart technique, Blueprint for Success. I have my actual marriage ox cart technique. It starts with my failure scenario. What happens if this marriage doesn't work? Okay. And I write that out. It creates emotion in me. When I did the Audible book for this, I tried to read that. I had to stop several times and re-record because it gave me that emotion. And emotion, not fact, is the driver of all action. Okay. What happens if my marriage fails? Boom. I read that and I'll do anything to make sure that didn't happen. I'll do anything. What is anything? The next step is the bridge from failure to success. It's your daily action plan. That's easy stuff. We all know what we're supposed to do. It's sticking to it is the difference. That's what this does. Next is the success scenario. What's going to happen when I have a happy marriage? What's that going to feel like? Now, I say my success scenario is I love my wife. I want to be with her for the rest of my life. Fantastic. Okay, that's why I'm going to do these things. No. You know what? You know what's more powerful than that, Ed? The fact that she's an attorney, and if I get a divorce, she will take me for everything I've got.
That's right, because she can represent herself.
She can represent herself, and she knows
how to. She would hire the best attorney.
Right.
And make you pay for it.
Yeah. So I've created a pain scenario more painful than I'm going to have to take out the garbage every week or what, the things that keep me going. Or I just come off stage. You're kind of the guy when you come off stage and you're having a little after party and, some little gal's kind of hitting on you and stuff. Which one's going to drive me more? Probably the stick. The stick is going to make sure. You bet. So that's what the ox cart technique does. And the book takes you through different scenarios, different examples, and the whole bit. And now it's been called the biggest advancement in the science of goal setting in recent history by Forrest Mims III, one of the 50 best brains in science. It's been acclaimed by one of the top 10 business minds in the world, by T. Harv Eker, one of the top motivational experts in the world, and on and on and on and on. It's hit pretty hard because it works.
And how long you been working on it?
Kind of interesting that you asked that question. I got to give a little background to that. Of course, the technique developed over time because once I started doing it, suddenly I started being successful. And people are coming up to me going, Terry, what are you doing? I was in direct sales at the time. What are you doing? So I'd teach them the ox cart. Before I knew it, I had rooms full of people coming to listen to me. And you know who I am now, right? You know where I come from. So the fact that anybody wants to listen to me at all was pretty astounding to me. And it started working for them. I had an international weight loss coach at one of my audiences, and she freaked out. She started teaching all of her clients. We started applying it to marriages. I started getting these emails. You just saved my marriage. So that was, everything's amazing. I'm doing a top fraction of 1% of the entire industry in the world. And then I married into said attorney and her 3 teenage and preteen boys. So I called up my business partner, said, guess what? I just retired. And like, wait, what? Yeah, I got one chance to turn these boys into honorable men. I'm not going to screw it up. They need a positive male role model more than I need more money. So I retired. I actually wrote the book when they were in school several years ago, but I refused to promote it because, again, I got one job. I was their scoutmaster, one job. And then, gosh, it's been maybe about a year ago. I said, you know what? It's time to, because the boys have now moved on. 2 of them got their Eagle Scout. They've moved on. And time to, kind of brush that off, relook at it and see if there's some interest in the book. And wow. The rest, as they say, is history. Shot up to #1 on Wall Street Journal, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, best-selling book on USA Today, turned into a TED Talk, hit #2 in the world. Wow. And yeah, it's kind of going crazy because it works.
Well, and it's good to, and be honest with you, I read part of it, but I didn't get through the whole thing because, I'm not going to bring it up to beat a dead horse, but it's just, I love having the books ahead of time, from each person so I can read it so we can make sure we go through it. But I also don't want to give everything away. I want people to go and get it. So, but I think and
he's being nice to me. I sent it to him 2 days ago. He's being nice, not calling me out on the air on it. That was my bad.
No, I still want to, but before, when we get ready to get done with this, I want to give you my address. I'd like to have a signed copy from you, and then I'll buy a copy and give it to somebody else.
Right on.
That's what I do. I ask for a signed copy from the authors who are on, and then I buy a book and give it to somebody else. So that way it's, because some people are like, I just don't want to pay for it. No, that's not it. I want to sign. I want everybody who's been on who has a good book to assign copies. And I have a whole display of them.
Right on.
Because I enjoy understanding why, because, it's different until you become an author, you have no idea. I hate to write, but I did it for this book that I did. But I talked to many authors and they're, I'm on my 17th book. I'm like, there's no way. I might rewrite, do mine for veterans only, but there's not any way I'm going to do anything else right now.
Well, I was recently on a major podcast, and the guy had a chance to read the book. I gave it to him ahead of time. And
it was a major podcast. I just heard that. So I guess.
What's that?
You said it was a major podcast. So of course you did.
Yeah. All right. Valid. Yeah. No, man, dude. You see how he treats me, guys?
Yeah.
So
I listen to my guests. People don't realize as a podcast host, you have to listen to what your guests are saying so you can go back to and talk to it. Radio's helped me out drastically by being on talk radio for years. It's helped me do these very well.
Right on. So this guy was tripping out, a fantastic time, but even better for me is he started doing what you just said. He started recommending my book, and so he's a coach. He's pretty well known business coach, and he read an email. He called me up 2 days ago, and he said, I got to tell you an email I got from one of my clients who read your book, and he reads me this email about how it changed his client's life. And like, man, that's why we do these things. That's why we do it right there. Because that means everything. Because again, I don't have to work. I can call it. I can go. I got a ranch in Montana on top of the mountain, in the middle of nowhere. I can just go hang out at. So what's going to drive me? Well, that. And anybody listening today to this podcast that gets it and makes a difference in your life, I'm going to ask you to reach out to me, because those things mean the world to me.
And I know we're still in this, but what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Probably TerryLFossum.com, TerryLFossum.com. You can go directly to information on the Oxcart technique at thegoalsecret.com, thegoalsecret.com. And it'll lead you to the rest of the website too. There's a contact me button that goes directly to me from there. It's not my assistant or my staff. It comes to me. I'd love to see it. Well, it's nice.
Any social media, Instagram, any of that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah. I'm over quite a bit of that stuff. YouTube channel. I'm just starting to put out some little motivational snippets on the YouTube thing. Tell some stories and stuff like that from my lessons I learned from trying to not to die in the middle of the wilderness around the world a few times.
So we've been talking about your book, but why did you do all the other things that you did?
Which show?
Well, I'm just saying, like, you're the reality show, the survival reality show.
Hey, now
because here's the thing. People don't know. I was in a documentary regarding, real estate and finance. I was the only mortgage person in this documentary. It was a pretty big documentary. I have my book out. I do a local radio show, which is, we have 51 to 71,000 listeners a week on our radio show, which is, and then it goes to a podcast and it's out everywhere and and we're doing really well. But I do it because I want to get information out and help people have I feel that everybody needs to own a home so they can change the directory of their family and that life, because it changes everything. And that's why I do what I do.
You're going to love when you're able to get into the book, because I actually give some examples from some of your partners in the mortgage industry out there. You're going to love that. It's going to resonate with you pretty big time. The survival show, I did not ask to be on. I did not want to be on any survival reality show. They reached out to me. And I found out that I was going to be the oldest person on the entire show. So basically, it's going to be, it's great they've got that demographic on there. It's great they got the old guy, but he gonna die. My wife was laughing at me. She's like, oh my God, you're the Tog. Like, Tog? What Tog? What's that? You're the token old guy, dude. Like, great, thanks, dear. Appreciate it. But then also, they wanted me to represent all of Boy Scouts of America in my Scoutmaster uniform. No pressure there. So again, it's really cute. They got the Boy Scout on. He's so cute in his little neckerchief, but he gonna die. There was no chance I was gonna win. No chance in the world. But I used the Oxcart technique on myself. So this carrot, the positive visualization, right? I'm gonna win the show. It's $250,000. That's cool. But that would not be enough to get me to do what I had to do to prepare for the show, because I went down to the local gym, hired a trainer, and said, you got a few very short weeks to turn this body completely around, to whip me into shape. Can you do it? And he basically looked me up and down and went, can you? So I was in pain 24/7 until the show. I flew into the Amazon jungle. I found somebody to take me into the Amazon jungle to teach me jungle survival. I've done stuff all around the world, but never in the jungle. Pulled over 100 ticks off myself. I did a whole lot of things. What motivated me to stick to those goals? Again, not the positive visualization, not the carrot, but the stick. If I fail at this, I'm representing all the Boy Scouts of America. I make the Boy Scouts of America look bad because of me. That pushed me. That kept me doing all those exercises, all those workouts, all that miles getting lost in the jungle because my guide got drunk ahead of time, et cetera, et cetera. The Oxcart technique works, and it even helped me win a stinking reality show.
All right, then let's back up a little bit more, because we talked about your book, the whole technique, and now this. how did you get to where you are now? Because like you said, you can go to Montana with you have a ranch there. You don't have to do anything. How did you become that successful? I know you've been using the technique, but what did you do to become successful?
Yeah, my first one, I was of course Air Force first, and things worked out really, really well there.
Did you retire out of the Air Force?
I didn't retire. No, I resigned my commission because I started that little business on the side. But the reason I did so well there is, number one, I've worked on my attitude a lot. I've spent money on myself. I've spent resources on myself. It's the best investment you can make, as Warren Buffett says. But the second thing is I worked my butt off, man.
Terry, I mean, when you say did you have a coach, a mentor, mastermind? Did you go to? Did you do any of that kind of stuff?
I did every audio I could get my hands on, every book, every seminar I could go to, everything I could get my hands on. Did not have a coach at that point. I do now.
That was probably the 80s, right? Not early.
Yeah, that would be the
the Awakening the Giant Within cassette.
All over it, baby. All over it. Absolutely.
So I mean, no knocking. I graduated high school in the 80s and late 80s. That's when early night. That's when I found Tony Robbins, and that's the Tony Robbins I like. Today's Tony Robbins totally different for me. I like the old guy. I like the Awakening the Giant Within. Some of the other stuff he did. That's what helped me get to where and I still use that stuff to this day.
Right on.
And Zig Ziglar and all those other things.
Zig's the best. Zig's the best. Absolutely. But that's where I found out all that stuff was great, but not enough because it didn't provide the stick. So then my business, I got into direct sales, network marketing. So there I was, executive officer for an entire group of nuclear B-52 bombers during the Cold War. Hey, you want to buy some skin cream? But again, it wasn't about that. And it was hard. It was hard. I'll be the first one to say it was hard, but poverty's harder. And I used the Oxcart technique and became part of the top fraction of 1% in the world in that industry because I worked really hard. Well, I was getting to with the military. Also, crews would land at 2 a.m. I'm still in the office working. I work hard. And that makes the difference. Those who are willing to work hardest usually are most successful.
I agree. But it sounds like you were in the right place at the right time with the right technique. And because network marketing, and please don't get, that was probably that was later 80s into the 90s, and it was all new. It was all
I couldn't have picked a worse time to be in the company that I was in.
Really?
While I was trying to build, we were on 2020 with Barbara Walters calling us a pyramid scheme.
Oh.
And everybody picked up on it from there. Couldn't have picked a worse time. The only worst time would have been not to do it at all. Because again, it's never a good time, right? For whatever you're doing, it's never a good time. It's always the best time right now. Don't wait for the right time. Don't wait for when circumstances are going to be better or you'll have more time or what. No, the best time to do anything is right now. Now, I did have the right technique, thank God. But that's only because I failed for so many years at it. I sucked at it. I was horrible. I'm a mechanical engineer, nuclear warfare guy. I am not a network marketer selling skin cream. I sucked. I was horrible. Not one of the fast success stories at all. I was the guy they went, oh my God, he's still trying.
What did you do after that?
After that is when and again, very blessed because you get residuals coming in if you do it right. And that's when I married into 3 teenage and preteen boys.
Okay. So, all right.
Yeah, retired to do that. As soon as they turned 18, got their Eagle Scout, moved on is where I'm going, okay, God, what do you want me to do next? Whatever it is, I'll do it. You lead, I'll follow. Be careful what you ask for. Because that's when I got an email out of the blue to be on a stinking reality show. I told my wife, I do not want to do this. I have zero desire to do this.
But you did it and you did well.
I call the entire thing blind faith, to tell you the truth. Like I no delusions of grandeur. I know I'm not going to win, but I believe I'm here for a reason. I even told them that on the show. You know, when we're down to the last 2 teams and they're doing those side interviews like they do, how terrible would it be to come this far, representing all the Boy Scouts of America, down to 2 teams, you and one other team. How terrible would it be if you lost? I said, it'd be fantastic. Like, wait, what? You know, I said, it'd be fantastic. I know I'm here for a reason. If my reason is to help Brady and Claire win, the other team win, God's will, not mine. Now, that's my own. Everybody listening in, I don't care what your beliefs are. I really don't. That's my beliefs. I got the microphone right now. So I called the whole thing blind faith. And as it turns out, I guess I was supposed to win because, well, with the help of my partner, we did.
That's good. All right. So before we go today, what is, if people are looking at your book, what's the one thing they should take away from your book?
Fail. Get out there and fail, man. That's a huge deal. People think failure is bad. Failure is fantastic. And the other thing is, in fact, I'll even go one bigger than that. Because there's a chapter on excuses, and it's been really resonating with a lot of people, because excuses are lies that we tell ourselves because we want to believe it's not our fault. We want to believe it was out of our control. No. Excuses are lies. It's brainwashing because we keep telling ourselves it's somebody else's fault. Bull. You did have time. You chose to do something that was comfortable instead of getting out of your comfort zone. You can't force the wind, but you can adjust your sails. So I think that's a big thing. Don't let excuses hold you back. And understand failure is the path to success. It's not that you weren't meant to do it. It's not that you're not smart enough, you're not good enough. You're on the right path. Everybody who's ever succeeded has failed a bunch, me included.
I agree. I'm failing all the time. You try not to, and it's always you want to learn from your failures so that you don't have them again. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. In my industry, I can do a VA loan in 9 days, which is unheard of. And that's because I've done a process that I've worked on for years.
Yeah.
And it works. And again, it's just because we do SOPs as veterans, business owners, and other things that we do to make sure. And it's important, but we still fail, and then we have to learn from it and move forward. And if you cause, somebody doesn't want the service or whatever you have, just let them go, but make them whole and give them more, to make sure that they're happy.
Yeah. If you help them out the door nicely, they're more likely to walk back in the door later on.
Correct. It could have just been a time in their life where they couldn't deal with it at that moment and they want to come back.
Absolutely.
Terry, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing everything. I really appreciate it. It's been
thanks for having me on here, man. I appreciate that. And I appreciate what you're doing. Again, I want to say, to help people understand that their failures aren't something that can hold them back, but rather that they can use those to empower themselves. I love what you're doing, man. Keep doing it.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show today. All your information will be in the show notes. Just go down to the show notes and you can reach out to Terry. Thank you, Terry.
All right.